So material subsection of your research report focuses on the research tool that you have used in your research process. In our case, we have used a questionnaire. So you will give us details of the questionnaire. So how do we make a questionnaire? The process has already been explained, but there are some features that I would like to highlight here as well. For example, the difference between research questions and questionnaire items. Research questions are your problem statements, your objectives, whereas questionnaire items are those expansion points on which you want your participants to respond. Your participants won't be responding on your RQs. Your participants will be responding on your questionnaire items. So the elements or the questions given in a survey are called questionnaire items, whereas research questions are those problem statements that you rely on in the very beginning. They give you the objective of research, whereas questionnaire items provide you those points on which you need data. So say for example, your research question is, your questionnaire item is, sorry, your research question is, um, are you in favor or against co-education, or what are your opinions regarding co-education? So if this is your RQ, so your QI will be asking participants their opinion. RQs are not aimed at participants, whereas QIs are aimed at participants. So for example, your QI will look like something like this. Um, do you feel comfortable in a classroom with female students or not? And then you will give them the options. Agree, disagree, yes, no, whatever scale you can design. We have had a discussion in the last class and I showed you the sample questionnaire. So you can watch that video in which I shared with you the sample questionnaire on happiness. So that video will explain that how a finished questionnaire looks like. So here you will write the process of preparing questionnaire. Here you won't paste those questionnaire items, rather the process of making it. For example, you will write that how many questionnaire items are there. I usually recommend that for each RQ, you make 6-7 QIs. So expand RQs into QIs, and then you will have participant response on those QIs. And then QIs, structure of QIs will also be discussed. Questionnaire item ka structure. For example, are you relying on close-ended questionnaires or open-ended questionnaires? Questionnaire items. Close-ended are where you provide participants options to select from, whereas open-ended are where you do not provide answers or options and ask them to respond. So your questionnaire should be a mix of open-ended and close-ended questionnaire items. And then you will also explain that from where did you get the content of questionnaire? So the questionnaire that you are asking, how did you get to know that what to ask? The answer is your literature review. So your literature review gives you theoretical understanding of what to ask, what the content of your research is. So from those points and readings, you select a few points that you want your participants to respond on. So structure, content, both are discussed in your materials subsections of research report. Another thing is that you will also mention that how your RQs were transformed into different QIs. Obviously, we do not want to ask irrelevant questionnaire items in our survey. So you have to convince readers that whatever you asked in your survey was relevant to your research, was relevant to your question, your RQs. One last thing in your material subsection is when you design your questionnaire, in the very beginning, you ask certain demographic questionnaire items like age, gender, if you want to ask their email, um, the subject they are majoring in. So such sort of information is usually at the very top of your questionnaire. However, there is no fixed rule that what to ask in demographic information. It depends upon your research questions. Some researches might not require them to mention the city that they come from. But if your focus is on differentiating the opinions of people belonging to cities and rural areas, then this question will become, the questionnaire item will become relevant. So demographic questionnaire items, please do not include them in the count. So roughly, you should have at least 20 questionnaire items that are based on your three RQs and a few demographic questionnaire items that you will ask in the very beginning. So these are some of the instructions that will suffice, that will help you prepare your material subsection of research report. Mainly what you do is you discuss your research tool. And in our case, our research tool is questionnaire. We're not relying on interviews. Otherwise, we will briefly mention about whom did you distribute your interviews. I mean, who were the participants of your interviews? What questions were asked during the interview? Such sort of information will be asked, will be mentioned in this section. However, we do not need it. We will just detail the structure and the content of the questionnaire that we have relied on.